Welcome back, friends and family, to the Son of a Mother show, where it's my mother and I talking news, life, books, movies, all the above, answering your questions. Nothing is off limits. Mom, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Tell me who rock, who sell out in the stores. You tell me who flop, who cop the blue drop, who jewels got blocks, who's most.
All right, and we're back. The the song of the week is "Mo Money, Mo Problems." Do you think that's true? Mo money, mo problems.
I think if you think it's true,
I think it's relative.
I think
you can create more problems easily.
That's what I'm saying. I think that I don't think it's true. Unless true. And then I think about MC Hammer.
But I think there's
the more money he got, the more problems he got. Yeah. But I don't know. I don't think it has to be that way. I really don't.
There's also like rabbit holes you can climb into with like being poor. People that are poor can go into like deeper holes, and they're getting less money. So like they just there's always different ways to get like credit. Even if you have bad credit, you can go to like buy now, pay here places and get more credit at like. You're renting cars at over 30% interest and stuff. So really, I think this world's just set up by credit and they want to take your money. So it's the saying my one buddy told me before. He said, whenever someone is poor and they're bad with money and they think like the answer to their problems is more money,
right?
How you act now being poor is exactly how you'll act when you're rich. So you'll probably have no money when you're rich too. So.
Right. I don't think that money cures your problem. If you have a problem, you're going to have it with money or without money.
Yeah. So you'll spend like it doesn't matter.
Right. So I don't believe that, but I think I like the song though. I think it's a cool song.
Yeah, I do like the song. It goes back. It's a throwback.
Oh my gosh. Remember when you used to listen to it? Like the only reason I know it is because you listened to it nonstop.
I had it on tape.
Did you? You had it on cassette?
Like actual cassette. And I was really good at like pressing rewind for the amount of time I needed to get to the beginning of the song. The struggle was real back then.
The struggle was real. But it was, remember it was right after, wasn't it the first song that P. Diddy did after?
One of them, yeah.
After...
One of them. Obviously,
what was his name?
Obviously, after...
Can't I think of his name? What is his name? Notorious B.I.G. After he died, right?
Yeah. But
no, that other song. It was that other song.
Missing You.
Missing You.
Was one of them.
Yeah. This is a little bit more upbeat. I like this song.
Yeah. I love it. Love it like a lot. Okay, so a little bit more of a time in between the last episode, but that's just scheduling, and that's life. So
Thanksgiving. It's called Thanksgiving.
Yes. Thanksgiving. We were both, doing things and
having lots of fun.
Yes.
And
So the first topic, what I did the week before Thanksgiving was we talked about, you had your kettlebell certification, and then we talked about how I was doing my next Strongman competition. Well, this was the Elliott Hulse Strength Camp Challenge. So what it was is it is a competition down in Florida, right? Tampa Bay, Florida. And it was 200 competitors, okay? And the problem with let me start off by saying the problem with it was there was no weight classes, okay? So that was the tough part. I think I talked about that before. It's tough when I'm 190 pounds and I'm going against a guy that's 270, right?
Right.
We'll link up that video that I shared.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Let's share the video.
Head over to the website.
Nikita took lots of great pictures and,
Head over to the website, thecrowjournal.com, click on podcast, click on Son of a Mother, and the last podcast episode will be on there and show the video highlights of everything that went down for that competition. I'll show and I narrate on it, comment on it, and you can hear my thoughts. But pretty much it went well. It was fun. It wasn't for like winning. It wasn't for like, because that was pretty much impossible, right? At my weight. So, but it was fun. I learned a lot. I threw up a bunch after the one event.
Did you get to see all the people you wanted to see?
Yeah, I met some great people on YouTube, like people that I follow on YouTube. Pretty for a long time. It was it was cool meeting them. Had some great conversations with them. Also,
Right.
like Elliot Hulse, like he stayed in the athletes area because athletes area was all gated off. He stayed in there the whole time because, you know, if he would have went out the gate, there would have been lines just to talk to him, right? So it was cool. He really interacted with all the athletes, and it was a good time. You could see in the video he was like watching my high jump.
Yeah.
Which is funny because I'm only 5'6", 5'7", 190 pounds, like short and stocky, but the high jump was like one of the ones that I did the best on.
You missed
I jumped the
what
highest.
I saw the video that Nikita took. Like you missed one, right? So how did that go? You missed the one, but then you made the other one?
Yeah, you have 3 attempts.
Oh, it was the same. So it was the same height. Okay.
Well, I went for the higher one. So I did the 48 inches. So I jumped 48 inches. So if you do that relatively, like I'm only 66 inches, right? So that's what, 18 inches? Only,
Right.
You know, from my head. It was funny because when I ran up to it, you had 10 feet running start, okay? And then you had to land it. When I ran up to it and I ducked down to start my jump motion, I saw the bar go above my head, and I'm like, oh shit, I have to jump above this. I'm like, just jump high. But it was cool. It worked out 48 inches. I just didn't get 50 inches on the last one. So you get 3 attempts, but it was cool. Like the highest one that was jumped was 60 inches, which is crazy.
Right, but how big was that guy? How tall was he?
He was a tall, real skinny dude.
Right.
You know, played basketball, all that.
I think, you know, in comparison, I think that was really,
relatively.
I mean, it looked amazing.
Yeah,
and
relatively.
you have
she
to
had a
show the
really
video.
cool slow motion video. That's what's in that video we talked about. So
we'll post that.
Anyway, I ended up getting 40th out of 200. So it's not bad. Not bad. But hopefully next year, I'm going to definitely do it next year. Hopefully next year he has.
I was wondering if you would do it again, like if you were still interested in doing it.
I really like doing that. I do for the competition. But hopefully he'll have like weight classes or different, you know, divisions or something.
Right. Is it expensive?
No, it really wasn't. It was like $70.
Oh, wow.
$70 to enter. You just have to pay.
Oh.
You know, then me and my wife paid for the hotel, and then, you know, we rented a car, so it's only 6-hour drive down there.
No, I mean, really.
Yeah,
I was thinking it was like 1,000.
No, and just for the just to be a spectator was only $5.
Oh,
like come in and watch. Like, yeah, it was really.
I'm surprised it wasn't more than, you know.
I know he could have charged for the people that were there, especially like YouTube. They call them YouTube celebrities now. The YouTube celebrities that have millions.
You are a YouTube celebrity.
I think you have to cross like a certain threshold, but I have a YouTube channel.
I think you are, and really, isn't it all that matters if your mom thinks you are?
It.
If your mom thinks you're a YouTube
you have like
video star, you are one.
One subscriber. You're a YouTube celebrity.
I remember because grandma would always, like, in the beginning of Facebook, you know, she'd always like everything I say. Every kind of like what I do too. But, but back in the day when there wasn't that many people on, right? Yeah. And I was like, see, everybody likes me. It was just her. Back when Facebook likes were like something that you were trying to get, you know.
Yeah. I think people still try to get it. It's annoying. Like this, if you agree.
Oh no, I can't do that. But I like stuff that if I genuinely, of course, I'm going to like everything that my children post. But I like other things too. I try not to go too crazy though, because then you're just like, you know. Oh.
Yeah, I like a lot of stuff on Instagram, but that's because I like pick to follow them, not like. In Facebook where you see random crap all the time.
You
don't want to see. Anyway, let's move on.
Anyway, so that was random.
That strength camp challenge. Strength camp challenge is a good time. You know, I got it again, 40th out of 200, not bad. And I look forward to doing it next year. My next thing coming up is 24-hour Go Ruck challenge, which is like a 24-hour endurance event.
Switch gears up a little bit.
Yeah, switch training up. That's coming up in February, end of February. In North Carolina. So that'll be fun. Now, the movie 33. Explain
the 33. Well, it was about the miners who were trapped in Chile. I think, I went alone. Ethan didn't want to go. So I decided I was going to go see it. Only because I kind of lived it. Yeah. And I just wondered, like, because you were not in Japan.
I kind of remember it.
You were not in Japan. I know what you were doing.
What?
It was August of 2010. Your whole platoon had left for Japan.
Yeah,
and
I
you
had to
were
stay
left
I
behind.
was the only one left.
Remember
'Cause
that month?
I had to deal with the court.
Exactly. But do you remember how depressed you were? Like, because you were all alone. But
Yeah, that
anyway, so
sucks.
you were all alone. And while you were all alone, were you watching the minors?
No, you know what I remember from that amount of time? So I was, which is a weird situation to begin with. Like,
Right.
this doesn't happen, right? But my unit wanted me to be in, didn't want to transfer me to another unit. So they're like, listen, we know this is going to get dropped. We just got to go through everything because they found the video of me not
Go through
being.
the motion.
Yeah, they found the video of me not being in the scene, what had happened, where the fight had happened. I wasn't
Right.
even there. I was around the block, okay?
Right.
I was just with the guy afterwards. And
Thank
had
God for video cameras.
Yeah, I had no clue what had happened, but I went down too. So,
Right.
But anyway, so my unit knew that I wasn't going to be, charged with it or convicted of it. So they're like, "We want you to stay. We'll fly you out once it gets done."
Right.
So I'm like in the barracks, and there's no one else. So all I remember from that time, I didn't have anyone to talk to. Like, as far as there was no one in my unit, I didn't have anything to do all day. I remember like waking up really late, going to the gym, coming back, like relaxing for a little bit, taking a nap, going to the gym again, and then watching. I was addicted to that show, Dexter and Weeds. So I used to watch a lot of Dexter and Weeds, and then I'd stay up really late, and then I'd go to sleep. I'd do it all day for like 3 months.
It was a very hard time for you to just hang out all by yourself because that barracks, when it's empty, it's pretty empty. It's pretty empty.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, and then I asked Zach. Zach was in Iraq during this time.
Yeah.
And he said that he does remember it, but that oil spill that happened in the Persian Gulf happened at the same time, that BP oil spill.
Yeah.
And they were way more concerned about that. So the miners thing was kind of off grid.
I didn't have cable either. So
but he was in charge of he had a lot more access because of being involved with the computers.
Yeah, he did.
So, but anyway, so what I remember from it and how it actually happened, I guess I didn't realize that the mining company knew that place was unstable.
Of course.
Okay. And they did not try to rescue them right away. And they tried to kind of hide it. And it was the families who put up, I don't know if you remember the scenes from TV. Oops, my phone. Is they had a fence going around and they kept the families out. And do you remember the scenes from TV? I mean, I remember that. They were like on top of those fences. People were climbing them. I mean, and the Chilean government was like, we got to do something because this is starting to get broadcast all over.
The world.
So I think it was the son or the nephew of the head guy in Chile decides to get involved. And then they accepted help. Canada really came to their rescue. And that's basically where, when plans started happening. But it's kind of funny because, Antonio Banderas was amazing. He's the main guy, Mario. He was the head guy. And Lou Diamond Phillips played the character who knew that there was something wrong.
Yeah.
Okay. So he felt very responsible. But in their reserve for food, there was basically like 5 cans of tuna, a couple packs of cookies. And since there was 33 of them, Antonio Banderas was in charge of like cutting everything up. 33. So they had, I'm not sure exactly how many days. I'd want to say 4 or 5 days that they made it on these tiny pieces of tuna and cookie. But at least it was something, right?
Yeah.
Now, the good thing is that they had water. They had an unlimited supply of water.
Wow.
Okay.
How?
Because there was something that they needed down there for water. So they had like a line, and it was technically not awesome water, but it was they sustained on it. So they did have water, but they did think after the food ran out, I think they went, the movie didn't say, but it's probably like a day with no food. And then all of a sudden the drill found them. Okay. And once the drill found them, they could get a camera down.
Yeah.
It was like this big. Okay.
Yeah, like on a stick.
So what they would do is they send them food in these tubes. But then they started sending them clothing. And I don't know if you remember this, but different companies were sponsoring then because you could see the people. So they were in Adidas gear.
Wow.
And then even when they brought them out, they all had to be dressed in Chilean colored Adidas gear. Like all because they knew that the cameras were there when they were being, I don't know, it's just kind of funny. I mean,
how ridiculous.
They were down there How many days did they say? 69?
Wow.
I don't know.
I didn't realize
Something
it
like
was that
that.
much.
Yeah, it was because they had to get a big enough to get one person up. They can't, they only had a tube, but they had to figure out how to get the, drill to get without collapsing the whole mountain on them. So it took time and took a lot of attempts. But anyway, so they were getting on each other's nerves, just kind of stupid stuff. But at least they could talk to their families and everything. Yeah. And, it ends, and we all know how it ends because they all survive and they're still all friends. And it was cool watching some of the videos on YouTube, and I'll post them of how they get together every once in a while, and stuff like that. But
it's scary.
So what I'm saying is, the movie, I think it didn't do as well at the box office because it's too soon. 2010 is only 5 years ago. I don't know that everybody's like, oh wow, that changed my life, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the problem is these guys didn't get paid, so they were hoping to make money off the book and the movie, and that's really kind of. And I don't know that the movie is broken even yet. The last time I looked, it hadn't.
Well, I had heard I heard a thing on that. Like, there's a really tricky thing that movie producers and all them do as far as like how they show profit gains versus losses, and how like even the people with the Lord of the Rings didn't get paid for a long time because they kept saying that they were showing losses when actuality there was a big lawsuit about it showing like they were trying to cover up millions and millions of dollars of profit by still being able to manipulate. This is like the capitalist corruption, still manipulating the tax numbers and the expenditures to show that there was still loss. But really,
all I kept thinking about is, what if that would have happened in the United States like that? Like, the company knew that and then they had to be down there. Like, these guys got nothing except for that when they got up. For the next couple of months, they toured together all over the world. They saw the president. Yeah. They toured all over. They did like cool things, like went to the World Series, Super Bowl, kind of a thing like that. But it didn't really give them any money. It didn't really profit them any. Some guy in Chile gave them each $10,000.
Yeah. I don't know how much that.
And goes. Maybe, I know. It's like how far does that go in Chile? It may have gone for a while, but none of them got rich, basically. And
I don't think they necessarily should have got rich, but I do think that they should have got definitely compensated to be working in an unsafe environment.
I said, can you imagine the lawsuit, though? I mean, in the United States, if that would have happened, they would have gotten rich. Yeah. Okay, the mining company would be done. There would be the government would have been paying.
Any like manufacturing company, now that people will work for. Like if you would, like I think about the company that I worked for, if there was like an unsafe environment and they found out they knew about it, like you can't help to think millions of dollars.
That's what I'm saying. Like they would have gotten rich because 69 days of their life got taken away from them and they were living down in a hole.
You talk about the PTSD, the PTSD associated
and
with
they all do. Yeah, they do. They all talk about how they have dreams and nightmares. And I could see having dreams and nightmares from the first 5 days when they didn't know if they were going to survive. Okay. Right. But then after they got that, but then I guess there's that, are they going to get to us? Like we can get food down here, but we might be down here forever.
And you might start going like little stir crazy,
they did go stir crazy. And that's when they started fighting. And, even though they had all the food they could possibly want, it wasn't about the food. They were then just going crazy being in a cave.
Yeah. So you think it was a good movie?
It was a very good, I thought, like I said, Antonio Banderas was amazing. And I love Lou Diamond Phillips. He was amazing. So I thought it was a great movie, but, do I think you should run out like to the box office? Especially now, there's too many good movies. Wait for Netflix,
Netflix or Amazon Prime.
Yeah, Amazon Prime, Netflix. Don't go,
Don't go, yeah. I hear you. All right. So 33, that's the movie of the week. And you're going to see Creed, right? For next week?
I'm very excited. Ian and I are watching Rocky. Well, we watched Rocky, and now we're watching Rocky 2. And, did you remember watching those early Rockies?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. The thing that's funny about them now, because of what we're used to in a movie, is how slow the story. Like Ian and I were sitting there last night, and I'm like, can you just fast forward it to him working out? Because
the montage workout thing.
I don't really care about like he has in Rocky 2. He has his son, and she's in a coma, but we know she wakes up, and but I don't know. It's just a different thing. We're so used to like fast paced.
Yeah.
Like You know, and I don't know if everybody was as into. I know with the later Rocky movies, they spent way more time on his working out. I don't know if we got more invested in watching Sylvester Stallone, you know, work out, but there was more in 2 than there was in 1. So, you know.
Yeah. All right. So Creed next week.
No, and pre-steroid Sylvester Stallone.
Yeah. And he's 70.
Which you kind of forget what that looked like.
Isn't he 70? Is he 70? 67? Something like that?
He's up there. And I can't wait to see what he looks like because I know that he's...
I think it doesn't change. I think, like, look at Rocky 4, and then that's what he looks like.
I think his face stays the same.
Yeah. So
I think it's frozen in time, right?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Now, the next topic we wanted to talk about, which was kind of like spur of the moment thing, was this podcast that I listened to. And we've talked about hardcore history before, right? With Dan Carlin.
Yes.
Well, there's another guy that just came out that is actually friends with Dan Carlin, and he started a podcast. Yeah, they're friends.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah. If you listen to the first episode of this new podcast called History on Fire, he credits Dan Carlin with a lot, and they, you know.
How many has he done?
I think like 4 or 5.
Oh, okay.
So now, can you say his name?
I can't. So I won't even attempt, but I will say that when you asked me to listen to it and you said, just get used to the accent, the first 5 minutes, I was like, I don't think I'm going to get used to his accent.
I don't think I can do it.
Right. But then as I listened more and I kind of, it gets clearer and he gets clearer. And I really enjoyed, I love Dan Carlin, but I really enjoyed his kind of take on, it's different, you know?
Yeah. So I'll attempt to say his name.
Okay. Go ahead.
Daniele Bellini. He's okay. So he's Italian. All right.
Right.
And he's very Italian, but he's been living in the United States for a long time. He says he can't hear his accent and all that stuff, but it's kind of tough to get used to. But it should not hold you back.
It shouldn't, because it does get better once you get adjusted to how he says the words. You tune into it, and it's so interesting.
Yeah, you don't hear it.
So we listened to the Iceman.
So the Iceman is, if you haven't heard about it, he is the person they found, right? The guy they found in the Alps, right? In Italy.
I don't even remember it.
No, it was in the early 90s. Right, 93.
91. Mm-hmm.
So you had these mountaineers that were walking along the mountain, and they see a body, right? And I guess there's usually like 200 to 300 people that die a year in the Alps mountaineering. I remember that part. So them seeing a body, they're like, oh, okay, you know, that's scary. You know, it sucks. It frightens you, but it's not something so rare. So they go over to the body and they start moving it, which is what do we find out in hindsight, which was a terrible thing. And you know, I think it was like the weather got bad and they were like, we'll come back tomorrow and bring this other guy up here. And they bring this other guy up there that knows a little bit. And he's like, this is different. Something's different about this body. Okay, let's bring other people up there. And they finally brought someone. They're like, this guy is old. Right? Like straight up mummified person. Right. And they end up finding that he is the oldest person they've ever found, dating 5,000 years.
How crazy is that?
So crazy.
Did you see the pictures?
Oh, yeah. I looked them all up.
Yeah, me too.
It's scary.
I looked them up.
But
yeah, it's crazy that, I guess because he's in ice.
Yeah.
I guess because he was in ice.
He was in ice.
You know that helped. But man, I mean, fingernails.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
And how much fingernails tell about the person. They can tell about your immune system. He said so they know that the guy, the amount of information they know about him is insane. So they know he was like 40 to 45 years old, right? He almost had like 0 body fat percentage based on his makeup. He had heart problems. So they said it was genetic because he was in really good shape.
Right.
They said, he had an immune system problem based on he got really sick about 3 to 6 months ago. So he's kind of had a bill of ill health.
And didn't they say that he was the first case of Lyme disease?
Yeah. First recorded case
First
of Lyme.
recorded was the oldest guy ever. And he's,
obviously. So he had Lyme disease.
He had Lyme disease.
He had arthritis. He was
lactose intolerant.
Yeah. They found out he had lactose intolerant. They were looking at his fingernails and they can tell all this stuff. They're looking at his stomach. They noticed what he was eating. He was eating wheat.
And they knew the hours. They were like 2 hours before he died, he had this to eat. 6 hours before he died. Like, I was thinking, isn't it amazing what we can, like, what science? And then did you see the DNA code that they did on him?
Yeah, that's insane.
Okay, it's almost like I want to do my DNA code. Because I didn't realize, like, you can do your DNA code to find out exactly where your DNA started.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah, that's really
cool.
How
crazy is that?
It's so
cool. And then his DNA code was not from there.
No. They were able to tell too, like before he died, like how he went down the mountain, went up a little bit of the mountain, and then went up again. So that kind of played into what we'll talk about in a second with the mystery of how he died. But I mean, you hear about these stuff and like all the things that he had with them, and you picture back 5,000 years. That's almost 3,000 years before the pyramids were built and the Great Pyramid was built. Think about that. You're like, oh, is this,
What I wanted to say is, okay, in the Bible, like say we're going to do biblical, right?
Like that even makes it even worse.
That it really does, because the beginning of what do they even say? I mean, what is the beginning of the Bible? Like,
I don't remember.
1,000 years before Christ was born. I don't know.
Yeah, it's got. I mean, I don't know how far they go back in the Old Testament. Obviously,
but they claim, in the Old Testament, they claim it's not that. You know what I'm saying? And then you find somebody like him, and you're like, no, it is like that. That really solidifies how old the planet is. Yeah, like how old how long ago people were walking on this earth.
Not even walking, like civilization.
Right? Yeah, because they're making tools that they didn't even know existed. He had a copper
axe, right? He had a copper axe with him.
Which they didn't. What was the other thing that they didn't think that it even existed?
I don't know. That he had a blade with him. He had a knife with him, which they didn't think that they would use. They thought they
found asbestos in his lungs.
Yeah, but they said that was not asbestos. They found lead poisoning.
Oh,
it was metal arsenic, not arsenic.
Oh, arsenic. That's right, arsenic.
Because
which they didn't even understand that was even possible.
Yeah, because he was smelting copper because he had that
copper.
But
they didn't think that was even possible, right? At that time,
they never had seen that before.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Yeah, and you think about all this stuff that he had. It's insane to think about this dude. Like, the thing that was interesting, I just kept picturing this guy walking around and like, what was he thinking? And I think the most interesting thing about this was his tattoos, right? Holy shit.
Wasn't
so his
that
tattoos,
crazy?
right? They found markings on him and they said like, it's not design tattoos. They're like, this is weird because all the places he had the tattoos were covered up by his clothes because he was wearing clothes.
That his skin, that they could tell that's how much skin was left over, that they could see all these markings.
So what they figured out was all these markings lined up with common acupuncture like spots on the body, right? And that's what they used for pain reliefs. And they didn't know this guy had arthritis. He had all kinds of pains and issues with his knees, his neck, his elbow, and just from living a hard life. You can possibly think that he's just had to go crazy.
He's only 110 pounds at 5'5". I mean, that's a pretty skinny dude.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they find out which the crazy thing about this is acupuncture. They believe wasn't developed until into China.
In China, yeah.
About 3,000 years ago. So now they're like, whoa, how do they know? And then he had markings to show where to go at, where to put the needles at.
Right.
And that's to relieve his pressure, relieve the pain. And you're like,
okay, so they were healing themselves. It's like, okay, so they even knew how to heal their own bodies.
And that doesn't develop quickly. Okay, so you say 5,000 years ago they knew about that. That just shows proof of more time before that, where they were developing these practices, these medicines, and you're like, holy shit, And then, okay, so now you go into the mystery of how he died. They're like, they did x-rays on his bodies, and they found out that he got shot by a bow in the back, right? He had cracked ribs. He was stabbed, right? And he found him when
Didn't they find an arrow in his shoulder?
Arrow in his shoulder. But the thing was, it wasn't attached to the stick part,
right?
Whatever
right, so it could have been in there.
So they said, like, they think, was he shot in the back, and they came over and took the arrow back, and they left the arrowhead. They were trying to figure out the story, but he had a big meal because they were like, was it a battle? But like, that's not indicative of having he had a huge meal a couple hours before he died. And they're like, well, how happened? But then they were talking about how he went up and down the mountain so many times before he died. And you're like, and you're trying to picture it. And there's all these theories because no one knows.
But and they picture it's more than one person too, right?
Yeah.
Like it's more than, because it's like different arrows or something. Yeah. I don't know. They're picturing that he's getting shot at by a couple of people, not just one fight with one person,
So definitely look that up, my friends. I mean, you and I maybe weird, maybe considered weird, but all that stuff is so interesting.
Okay,
it's so
about the fact that Brad Pitt has
he has the Iceman
on his forearm. I know, and I thought it was funny the way he was like, I don't even want to go into why I think he has that.
Yeah, no kidding. So
He's kind of funny. I really think the guy's entertaining. I can't wait to listen to another one.
It's a different type of story that he tells.
Yes.
It's different than the Dan Carlin podcast, but it's different in a great way. So
yes.
History on Fire, check that out. It's a great story.
Yes.
So interesting. That was
I listened to it last night. I mean, no problem. It was
Dan Carlin's podcasts are usually over 3 hours, but this was only an hour and 40 something minutes, so it was easy listen. So
yes, easy listen.
Now the next thing we wanted to do, we tell you guys we talk about news, right? That's part of what we want to talk about, but we don't want to talk about trending things. We want to only talk about trending things, current stuff that's going on, happening right now. And we just go through some stuff and pick out whatever is interesting. And I love this one thing we found that said on the next iPhone, which is so funny because we talk about like all this struggle in ancient history, and then we're like, did you hear what's going to happen with the new iPhone?
It's like, okay, so that guy died, whatever. Yeah. Nothing we can do about it. But anyway, back to normal problems.
Yeah, the new third world American problems. The new iPhone's not going to have a headphone jack. And you're like,
You're like, how am I going to listen to my music at the gym?
Yeah.
What happened?
So apparently what they're going to do is they're going to make it so your headphones now plug into the lightning port, right? So what does that mean? That means you're going to have an adapter. How much is that adapter going to run you? $40 to $60.
I don't know if you can see this thing. I'm going to try it. No, I can't show it. And I can't unplug it.
So
but
Go ahead. Tell your story.
Okay. So when we, decided to do this podcast, Kyle tells me what to buy, and I go and buy it. And he was like, now you need the wire that connects directly into your internet so that we don't, so we don't have to worry about internet problems. So I go into Staples and I tell them my issue. I tell them my computer, and I have a MacBook Air. And he's like, okay, so you need this wire, and then you need this Mac connector. And I was like, what are you talking about? Why can't I just put the wire right in? He's like, no, because you have a Mac. He's like, you need the actual Mac
adapter.
The adapter that costs $60. The wire costs $20. The 1,000-foot wire that runs all the way.
Yeah, you can't even
adapter that that's this big costs me $60 because I have a Mac.
And now even the new MacBooks, they only have USB-C, I think it's called, where it's like a completely different connector. So it just shows like people are trying to create their own little things. So you have to buy these adapters and you have to buy more stuff.
Mac,
and you're like,
how about Mac is trying? They're trying to make it their own world. Okay, of you will go and buy a MacBook Air and you think, oh, I got a MacBook Air. That's the end. No, anything you want to do with that MacBook Air is going to cost. You are going to be back in Apple, buying Apple stuff. And even when you try to get, I don't know if you've ever noticed, but if you try to get any kind of cord that goes into your Apple, it doesn't work. Your chargers, it seems like they've made them, that people can duplicate them for maybe some cheaper things, but it doesn't work as well.
Yeah, so now, like, a lot of times in my car, I have my headphones on, like if I'm listening to something. I don't like going through plugging into the aux cord and all that stuff. Right. I just keep my headphones in, the same ones that I'm wearing now. They're super comfortable, the Apple ones.
Right.
But what am I not gonna be able to freaking charge my phone and listen to music because I got to use the
yeah, that's right. So you're not going to be able
something?
to charge and listen at the same time.
Who knows? It's still early in the game. It's only December. They're not going to come out with that new iPhone until next.
But it is kind of funny that they, I mean, how about when we all had the 4s and we all had the adapter for the 4s, and then the 5s came out and we all get the little
cord,
5,
I was so happy once Nikita got an iPhone that had the lightning port, so we didn't have 2 different chargers in the house.
Yeah, because it was always a battle because everybody had different iPhones. It's like, well, which one do you have? Which one do you have?
God,
so,
yeah.
And I do like the lightning. I mean, because you don't have to hold it a certain way. I do think it's an upgrade, but it's just, it's like they ease us into this stuff, and then it's like, all right, well, now we're used to that.
Yeah, it's I can't help to think like corruption.
Can't help to think that all
those
things they say on Facebook
money
about everybody trying to control us is true, right?
True.
It's all like, true. We're being manipulated.
It's like, how can we get more money from them? I can't help to think that way. It's a crazy world, my friends. But the struggle is real.
The struggle is real, and Ella said so it really is real. The struggle's real. But okay, so we didn't read a book. So we're going to read a book.
We're going to read a book.
Kyle got to pick it because I picked Leah's book last time.
If you're interested in what we just talked about with the Iceman, this book will blow your effing mind. Okay? So it's called Magicians of the Gods.
And I've never heard of it.
Yep. The Forgotten Wisdom of Earth's Lost Civilization, right? By Graham Hancock. And what this guy does, he goes around the world and looks at different archaeological megalithical sites around the world, right? Like Göbekli Tepe. Have you ever heard of that place? Göbekli Tepe? So what you have Stonehenge, right?
Yes.
Stonehenge, right? So the date back to Stonehenge is only a couple thousand years. And they think like that's the earliest civilization. Well, then they find Iceman 5,000. They're like, wow, okay. Then they found all it looked was they found like a hill mound, right? And they start digging into that because they're like, that shouldn't be there. That a mountain or a hill shouldn't be there. And they find this covered up like city, and not only covered up city, but they buried it on purpose. They figured out
where was that?
I forget where Göbekli Tepe was.
See, now this isn't what I thought it was going to be about.
No. But listen. But
this is good. This kind of, we go right into
this city, this underground city that they found dates back to 12,000 years. So they're like, what?
And we were just amazed at Iceman.
And you're talking about the same thing with the engineering and how they move these 18-ton pillars that are 18 feet high and they're stacked perfectly in a row. Like, how'd they do that back then? 12,000 years ago. The carbon dating is 12,000 years. You can't argue with that. That's set in stone. There is no back and forth. Oh, no. That's it. Right?
Right.
That's they're taking the elements, they're dating the carbon elements of that freaking stone, and you can see black and white when that was from 12,000 years ago.
That's crazy.
So he goes around the world and he's trying to show like civilization is a lot older than you think. So this is the forgotten wisdom of Earth's lost civilization.
Well, that's what I was trying to say before. It's like we as we were raised as Christians, so the beginning of civilization for us is 7 days. God created Adam and Eve, and you know what the thing is like they don't really say times. I know there are people that like try to say that the Bible gives specific. But I really don't think that it does. I really think that it all just kind of melds in together. I think that there's parts of that's right. And then there's parts of, it's like, I don't know that it proves it wrong is what I'm trying to say.
I'm not trying to argue evolution.
Right.
Evolutionists out there who believe in evolution versus not believing in evolution.
Right.
All I'm saying is that people were engineering buildings 12,000 years ago. Whatever your religion says about that, that's on you. But I'm saying they're finding this, okay?
Right.
And I'm not going to argue and say, oh, the scientists are wrong. That's dumb. Then we're not having a conversation if you're going to say that, because that's proven.
But there are people that are going to say that.
For sure. There, because a lot of religions, there are people that, and I believe that religion's not a bad thing at all, but I can't argue with that. Okay?
Right.
What you believe in God has nothing to do with, I believe, us knowing. We don't know for a fact, but what we do know for a fact is Göbekli Tepe is 12,000 years old. So you have to accept that civilization was going on, right? And they had drawings on the wall. They had, they were drawing out animals. They were drawing out, part animal, part human things, and they were drawing constellations. So they knew about constellations 12,000 years ago, which predates all what they thought about when constellation mapping had started. And you're like, whoa. So,
but that's what. But I have heard Christians, especially fundamentalist Christians, say that it's like the scientists are trying to eliminate any kind of anything that like it's a conspiracy of the scientists. I do not believe that. Okay. I do not think that the scientists are trying to prove Christianity false or the Bible false.
No. I think these scientists are the biggest nerds in the world, and they just get off on finding this.
Exactly.
Themselves.
I don't think that their main goal is to have their own religion. They're just trying to say, look, this is what and as technology progresses, they're going to be able to prove even more. And more and more, and then you can't,
They've been able to find about this Iceman guy,
right? Like
they
couldn't have been able
100 years ago. You would have found this bio, like, wow, that's old.
And, medical technology would not have been there. No. Science would not have been there.
We know all this stuff that's changing shit. Like, we should change the history book, right? No.
No, history has. Yeah, let's not do. Yeah, right. Like, no. History that was written, in the 1700s is history, and then.
Yeah, that's what this guy argues a lot. And the reason I know a lot about him is because he was on the Joe Rogan podcast a couple times. And we'll post the most recent one where he talks about a lot of stuff. And you're like, I don't know how you can argue some of this stuff, because you're like, it's right in front of us. And he explains how it's all like how what you see in normal life and what it actually, just looking at the mountains and how the mountains are formed. And it's like, whoa, you just can't. And he's saying about water markings in the United States that show great floods and stuff. You're like, that no one has said it, about, but you got the polar ice caps that are melting down and creating 100-foot deep floods. And then there's freaking evidence of this. And he's explaining the evidence, and you're like, this is crazy. So the history of it, it's pretty much a history book, but we're going back. We're going way back. Right?
We're not going 5,000. Now we're headed. 12. Well, even with the Iceman, when they were saying, like, one of their theories was that as the temperature was warming, I mean, that's why they found him when they did, because the temperature had to go down.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, the temperature had to go up for the ice to melt, down.
And another thing that's cool about that is what I heard was, so when they found this 12,000-year-old Göbekli Tepe, right? They found this and they realized that the engineering was at a high level. But then as civilization gets newer and newer, they see that it starts to decline, right? So there's like kind of like an evolutionary wheel. It starts to decline, and then it starts to pick back up. So you're like, what happened? Well, he explains how many times the Earth has actually been hit by asteroids, right? And he goes into... Oh, it's insane. So
okay, don't tell me too much. Now you're talking. We're talking about this book and we haven't even read it yet. Okay.
Right. Yeah, I just know a lot about it because I listened to a freaking 3-hour podcast about it. But so it's a pretty long book. But open your mind a little bit, my friends. I'm not what I preach so much is not being so closed-minded to this is the way. Open your mind to seeing like this is the possibility. I pride myself on having an open mind that I can listen to people talking about one side and then also listening to people that talk about the other side and be like, that's a good point. That might be true.
It's really an interesting story. Quick before because I know we're bucking up against time, but I think that you learned that from me because when I was growing up, okay, my dad loved to argue. Okay. But here's the thing. He didn't care which side. Right. So we'd sit down at the kitchen table and he would, because he read the newspaper, front to back every day. Right. And he'd bring up a topic and he'd say, pick a side. And, so I'd pick a side and then he'd argue and then he'd say, okay, now pick the other side. And he really taught, I swear, at some points I thought I was just confused all the time because I'd be like, well, people would say, well, what do you think about that? Well, I think this. I struggle with that so bad.
I do struggle with that. I'm like, how do I feel about that? I feel this way because this way is true, but on the opposite side, they got some good points on the opposite side.
On the opposite side, but I mean, he ingrained that, and I'm not sure why. I wish I would have. I wish I would have lived a little bit longer. That I would have asked him that question as to why. I used to think it was just because he loved a good fight, but I think it was also he taught Wayne and I to see like all these different sides to. Mm-hmm. Even when it comes to politics, everybody's like, I'm a Democrat, I'm a Republican.
I hate that.
I'm a this, I'm a that. And I'm like, well, actually, I like this. But then if we argue it this way, these people look pretty smart too. And, and I always think the best of everyone too, because I think they're people. And, there's a lot of Hillary hating going on. And I'm always like, yeah. But then, and I'm like, I can't ever join in on a conversation if somebody like has a definite opinion about something. I find it very difficult to have
I'm a don't force anything upon me and leave me alone party, like libertarian.
Right.
Let me do whatever I want to do as long as I'm not hurting anyone.
What if Donald Trump wins, right? And then, but then like I always think, that's why I think about presidents. You got to back who's the president. I think you do, unless you want to spend the next 4 years hating the president, which you could always do too. But I go, that's the military in me because I lived on too many military bases to hate any president. Yeah, because you rely on your president. Yeah, it's a military.
I saw a video of Donald Trump making fun of this reporter. That he's crippled. Oh, that was tough. And he starts making the crippled sign with his hands. I'm like, oh, dude, you're supposed to be the president. You're making fun of crippled people. And you're like, oh, don't do. And he's putting his hands up by his face. He's like, yeah, he didn't, you can't vouch for whatever he was saying as credible. And I'm like,
why did you do that? That was such a bad moment for you, and it was on camera.
Yeah, if you ask me my opinion, I'm like, no, this dude. I like how he speaks from his mind. Cool, but you
can't talk on the fly like that. Like you gotta be, you gotta be more in control.
He's too emotional. I feel like a lot of times he's a great businessman, but once you attack him, he'll go right back at you, and he'll be like, blah, blah, blah. And he'll even on Twitter, he argues with people on Twitter all the time. And you're like,
I swear that's why I'm becoming more of a Hillary fan because
I don't even know if I'm Hillary.
I don't either, but I'm just saying.
I hope it doesn't turn into Trump Hillary. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I hope it doesn't either. But at least I figure with her, like she's been there, done that. She's been, I think she can compose herself when in a situation because she knows a little bit about. But who are the other Republican guys? I don't. I'm not invested in any of them.
There's some good, like, Ben Carson, but he has some weird.
I can't do Ben Carson.
I mean, he's really smart. He's a neurologist, right?
But he's another one. He was on The View and he said some stupid things to the ladies on The View that I was like, you need to not be in that. So I don't know. These people put themselves in situations and you're like, how about everybody not do the whole media, back in the day when you didn't see them and you could just vote on.
One of the biggest things that I like about Obama is his presentation skills. Like,
oh my gosh,
his speeches, his talks is always
you would not have seen Obama lose his cool in a place like that.
That's the only thing I respect about him. There's a lot of things that you can argue against him, and the stuff that he's done with the whistleblowers is really tough to argue against. And what he said he was going to do with whistleblowers versus what he actually did. That's hard to argue. So it's tough. I didn't want to make this all into politics, but
I know I didn't either. And we should just end it before we do. Before we get too caught up in the political things, but it is what's trending. I mean, it definitely is all over the place.
It's election year, it's election year.
We have a long, now
I'm so tired of it already.
We have 11 months of talking about this.
I'm so tired of it already. You know, it's weird that I've never voted. Yeah.
You've never been in the country.
Never done it. Yeah. I've never done it. So I think that.
And don't say it's because your mother never took you, because there were years that I used to take you guys when I went to vote, and you'd have to stand there and because everybody was like, take your kids to watch you vote, take your kids. So the pressure was there. I did it. I took you guys, so you can't say that turns people into voters. Like everybody says.
I can't help to think like, yes, you can vote and be like, I did my part. And that might feel good about, in some sense, but I can't help to think it doesn't matter.
I can't help to think that when it all comes down to it, George W. Bush still wins, and and it doesn't even matter.
He was
what
supposed to win, and so they won, and that's what happened.
Exactly.
And you're just like, I still remember going to sleep that night, and Dad coming down, freaking out, screaming, "He won! He won!" And I'm like, "How? Oh, Florida!"
Yeah, but he didn't win that night. He technically won that night, but then it got back. Then it was
crazy. Yeah, it went back and forth. That was funny. I always remember that. Like he probably stayed up all night watching that stuff.
You know what? I think I usually stay up all night.
It's cool. It's exciting. I mean, you get to see the leader of the free world. That's what they call him, right?
Right.
So
I mean, I always stay up, but I just because it's history.
Yeah, that's cool. So that's very cool.
We should end. The problem with Kyle and I is we talk too much.
I think it's only about 45 minutes. Because the funny part is that we talked for 15 minutes before we started.
Okay. I was going to say, people are going to be like, God, do they ever shut up? Actually, we don't. And we talk almost every single day. And this is how it goes when we talk.
Yep.
Which is what we said was going to happen anyway.
Yeah. So you get an inside view.
We can go from one topic to the next topic to the next topic.
Yeah.
And I love the video I'm going to post with your permission of Ella making a gingerbread house.
The time lapse?
The time lapse of her
and
making.
Always repeatedly, it's just her putting her hand in the mouth. Like, are you making it or are you eating it?
No, it looked like, I couldn't tell exactly, but it looked like Nikita was putting the candies on and Ella was taking them off. Like, it's so counterproductive to me.
I came home last night and I'm like, I saw it on the table. I'm like, is this like food? Are we eating this or is it decorations?
It was so
Can
cute.
I eat this?
It's awesome that she must have set the camera up like next to her so she could see her, you know.
Yeah, that was cool. So. All right, friends. Next week we have a great episode for you guys. Episode 10, we're bringing on the first child or the second child. I don't know. Annie.
You're the first child, but we have the first victim, the first, to want to talk to us.
Of the siblings.
She has volunteered her.
So she is the fourth child, technically.
She is
in the lineup.
My fourth child, and she's 20, and she's had a pretty exciting life that she wants to share with everybody in her 20 years on this planet.
I'm going to have to be quiet a lot.
You know what? She can talk. I hope she doesn't get nervous. I hope she just talks. But she's going to be sitting here with me, so I think it'll be okay.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
We're not going to have to Skype her in because I figured I have the good mic. We're going to set it between us and figure out how to set it up. And, we'll sit back farther. So,
cool.
Lean in. We'll figure it out. But, yes. So
that's next week. Annie's coming
our number 10 already.
Yeah. It's coming.
And I thought it was perfect. 10 means Annie because, gymnasts get a perfect 10 back in the day. Back in the day, no longer, but back in the day.
Sure.
That was always her favorite number. So,
what was our sign off? What was yours? Love more. Mine was stay strong, right?
Yep.
Okay, friends and family, thank you for taking the time for listening to us ramble. We appreciate you. We love you. And we'll talk to you next time. Stay strong.
Love more.